Guys, I have no idea what happened then. Hey everybody, welcome to Band of Badgers. For some reason you got the double paw there. I have no idea why. I'm just here to push buttons. But this is our Q&A, and this time we have Taylor Holloway all the way from Creaturecaster to join us, to hang out for an hour, to answer your questions, to answer our questions, and generally just chit chat and hang out and talk about his latest project, I should say, is the world of Reclamation. So Steve is here to push some buttons. For you joining us live, thank you very much. If you have any questions, please do stick it into your chat now, or as we go along. That's fine as well. You've got those rules as well. As we find questions, we will put them up on the screen, and we will tell Taylor all about them, and we will find out any answers you wish. So, everybody understand that? Everyone's nodding their heads. Fantastic. Right. Yeah, not you guys, just the audience. Right. If you're watching this on YouTube, thank you very much. You will find all the details you need in the comments below, in the description below. Leave your comments below. And if you have any questions we haven't quite answered, I will personally send them over to Taylor to let him know, and he will give you the questions or the answers to questions. I'm getting it all mixed up. It was the double paw. It really threw me for a second, but there you go. Hello to everybody joining us. Thank you so much for this. This is a bit, believe me, we've not had anything like this before. We've been talking to Taylor for on and off for a few weeks now. He's kindly shared bits and pieces with this. This is on Backer Kit. We'll share the links in a sec, and you can see all this for yourself. But we're really here to kind of pick your brains, Taylor. Thank you for joining us. How are you? How's things?
Great. Thank you for having me. This is a great opportunity. I'm really excited to be here.
I'm not so sure it's a great opportunity should be mentioned when we talk about Band of Badgers. It's more of a, well, I had the time. That's it's more of a great opportunity for us, but we thank you for saying it. That's fine.
For you guys, I will always make the time.
There you go. A fantastic reputation we have. So a little bit about, we'll do the elevator pitch first. What is, let's do a little bit on your background. Who are you, and what is Creaturecaster all about before we get onto the world of Reclamation?
So Creaturecaster is a boutique miniature manufacturer out of British Columbia, Canada. Myself, I'm not out of British Columbia. I'm from Ontario, but I'm the business development officer. So what does that mean? It means I do pretty much anything the CEO doesn't want to do. And in this case happens to be writing Dungeons and Dragons adventures and expanding on our IP.
Good. That's what we like to know. Now, one of the things that you introduced to us by a mutual friend. So one of the things we wanted to know is you are mad on horror.
Yes, I'm a big horror buff, to say the least. Yes,
exactly. I'm reading some of these adventures, reading some of the content, and looking at the miniatures, the models, the artwork. Is absolutely fantastic, and I'm really kind of pleased that we get to show some of this off at the moment. The stuff that you're kind of still working on this. Everything we show, just a kind of disclaimer out there for everybody. This is still work in progress. It's not final to its final.
Yes.
As I said, the backer kit is still going, but everything is available, and we're going to show bits and pieces. But
yeah.
What's the fascination with horror for you?
Ever since I've been a kid, I was one of those monster kids. You know the ones, right? I have a daughter, she's 6, and she's a monster kid too. And everything's about monsters, weird.
Yep.
The grosser the better, right?
Yep.
And I think I just never really grew up. This was my jam when I was a kid, and as I grew up, I just kept on wanting to push it further and further. And I think I was in grade 6 or grade 7. I was reading. I was really into Stephen King at the time.
Yes.
Then I found Clive Barker. And it just got crazier and crazier. Even my dad was very curious about reading when I think I was at early teens, when he found some of the what are they called? They're these old Pan Book of Horror. I'm not sure if you remember those.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Pan,
so I used to collect the Pan Book of Horrors, right? And
wow.
like looking back on that, those are wild.
Yes.
Like the stories in there are incredibly graphic. Like
yes.
I have, and it didn't faze me at all when I was a teenager. Like nothing fazed me. And my dad, I remember he picked it up And I'm not going to get into what the topic of the story was, but it was pretty intense. And I guess my dad just kind of read it just to see what I was reading, and he took me
Yeah.
aside and he's like, what's wrong with you, son?"
What is this stuff you're reading? There's
Yeah.
certain levels.
And to be honest, my friends and my wife still say the same thing when they read my material sometimes. They're like, "What's wrong with you? Why are you like this?"
It's definitely in terms of writing, it's definitely a release.
Yeah, I think
Um,
so.
yeah, but it's good
Yeah.
that you're able to share with other gamers because this is what it's all about. You can expand and explore this quite graphic world that
Yeah.
you're creating.
Yeah. I mean, so I have a theory when it comes to writing horror, right? And it's that if you're comfortable, it's not horror, it's fantasy,
Hmm.
right? So my goal when and I mean, there is a subset of the role playing community, and I think same with like the movie watching community, the book reading community, etc. Myself included, we like feeling uncomfortable when we're reading something because we're actually feeling something, right?
Yes.
And I really try to translate that into a role playing environment where if you're not comfortable with the material that you're witnessing or being a part of in the adventure, and I don't think I take it too far in these adventures,
Hmm.
but people definitely are uncomfortable with what's going on, right?
Yeah.
And it makes them feel something, and I think there is a subset of people that really enjoy that, and the ones that do enjoy it really enjoy it, right? And that's where you kind of get your super passionate fans. Like if you look at something like Kingdom Death, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, the people who are passionate about Adam's work are, like they're very passionate about it because again, it makes them uncomfortable, but it also makes them feel something, and they get involved that way, right?
We mentioned so all of this is being funneled into. I'm not going to say it's not brand new title, but this world of reclamation.
Yeah,
What is so? Explain how this has come about because this is something that's been building for a while now.
yeah. So,
So
um, when I started with Creature Caster, we I knew immediately that we needed to branch out from the tabletop war gaming
mhm,
situation, right? For years, Creature Caster has been producing amazing models, and a lot of these models were used as proxies in Warhammer, which is great. But we make demons, and demons are a niche faction, and it's very hard for us to make models for a game that we have no control over. We don't
yeah,
have, we don't have any say in what Games Workshop does, right? So the first thing I did when I started with Creature Caster was I knew that we had to move away from that, and the best place to move into, I felt at the time, was the role playing community.
mhm,
And then we had the choice whether we wanted to make our own role playing game or we wanted to jump onto the 5e system, and having produced role playing games or games in the past, I knew that making your own role playing game or making your own game in general is a lot of work. There's a lot of
yeah,
playtesting involved. It's a trial. So whereas the 5e system, number one, it casts a wide net. The majority of role players out there play 5e, right?
mhm,
Whether people who don't play 5e admit it or not, right? It is the biggest system out there. And sort of my philosophy was, um, if we make 5e content, we're casting the widest net because those who are interested in our content but don't play
yeah,
5e are usually more than capable of taking 5e content and translating it into the system of their choice, right?
yeah,
Whether it's Pathfinder, Morkborg, Call of
mhm,
Cthulhu, whatever, right? They're gonna have an easier time doing that than your new role players who are starting with 5e and aren't necessarily familiar or willing to look at something in another system and translate it to their game of choice, right?
yeah, yeah,
So what I did was I initially, so Peter and Simon, who are the other parts of the company, they're the other two owners of the company. They aren't really too familiar with role playing in general, so it kind of fell on me to give them a pitch, and the pitch was I gave them three different game worlds that I would write in, right, and they got to choose which one they like the best.
yeah,
One of them was a very traditional, like everything had a horror element to it, but one was very traditional fantasy, more Diablo, Ravenlofty.
mhm,
Another one was kind of weird. It was more like political horror and like oppression of people and that sort of thing, which I think was my personal favorite that I wanted to go with. And then I wrote up this silly setting where worlds went and died, and took place in a strange world where, very reminiscent of like, very not reminiscent, drew a lot of inspiration from like Stephen King's Dark Tower.
yes,
Like very, very heavy, weird sci-fi fantasy, right? And it was just a joke. I just wanted Peter and Simon just to see where we could do with it, and both of them voted they wanted to go with the setting I didn't want them to go with, which was the world of Reclamation. So I
Yeah.
was so I was given this challenge of, so once they said, okay, this is what I want to do, and I'm like, oh no, we don't want to do this. This is not
Yep.
something we want to do. I don't think you understand. This was a joke. And they're like, well, no, we really like the idea. And I'm like, yeah, I don't think it's a great idea. And they said, well, let's just go with it for a bit and see if it works. And then if it doesn't work out for season 2, then we'll switch to something else. And with a heavy heart, I said, okay, I guess this is what we're going to do. So I wrote the first adventure, which is Bargaining and Blasphemy, which, again, has a very, drew heavily from the general feel of the Dark Tower, Stephen King's Dark Tower, which I felt was really where it was a really good spot for weird horror, right?
Yeah.
And anyway, so yeah, I wrote Bargaining and Blasphemy, and I published it, and it took off. People were really excited about doing it. They felt the world was really original. They liked it. So from there, I did the next adventure, which was What Lurks Beneath, which is
Yeah.
that's the Goblin horror one. And then the third one, which is I think my favorite adventure, is called The Silent Village, which is
Yes.
I've haven't played through it actually, but the playtesters that did play through it said it was possibly the most intense and horrifying experience they've ever had on the tabletop.
Wow.
They said they've never had players more scared of what was going on in the Silent Village than like I had one guy. He messaged me. He's a playtester, and he messaged me, and he goes, wow, and I'm like, context, it's 11 o'clock at night.
Yes.
And he goes, no, I just ran the Silent Village. And he says, my players were terrified. And I'm like, really? And he goes, yeah, man, there's only one fight in that entire adventure, and it has nothing to do with the Silent Village. Yet he said he's never had players more involved and intently scared in his entire, and he's a professional GM in his entire GM career. So that was pretty, I took that as a compliment. I was really excited about that. I mean, I was excited about the Silent Village too. I kind of thought it was just a cool concept of this abandoned village that randomly appeared somehow in this cave system, and it would look completely intact, but it's completely empty, and anyone who goes in doesn't come out. So I don't want to give away too many spoilers. That's the thing. I don't want to. Yeah,
exactly. One of the things is really hard to do in these kind of interviews that we kind of get involved with is we want to share the content. We want to show that off.
Of course.
But at the moment, there's still a lot of spoilers out there. So we're trying to tease everybody as much as we can. Again, take it from me, take it from Steve as well. We've been reading some of these stuff. Again, Taylor's been very kind to share bits and pieces of this. We will be doing more as well. If you're a fan of Creature Caster and you want to get into the world of Reclamation, not only will we be doing this, I say we will be doing this, because we're doing it. It's here. We're doing it now. But next month, so this is October, in November, next month, we will be painting up some of the minis that we're going to be talking about, some of the miniatures from this campaign. And in January, we're going to start playing these adventures. So if you're watching this, or those of you who are watching this, you want to get in there first. If you're watching this on YouTube, you may have missed out already. If you want to play with the Badgers, get in touch. You want to play horror with the Badgers, get in touch. You won't regret it. You might shit yourself, but you won't regret it. Your character may not survive. It's just be aware.
I guarantee that some of them won't survive. I can promise you that.
Yes.
One of the things I try to do when I'm at conventions, and people because I get groups of people that come to the convention, and they're like, okay, well, tell me about the World of Reclamation. They have their whole adventuring party with them, like the people they play D&D with. And I, the first thing I do is I'm like, okay, like which one of you guys is the GM? And I'm like, come here. And I tell everyone else to walk away. And then I explain to them that it starts off very small, but it gets into be like more of a political horror thing. And then it eventually erupts into a world-ending type of horror scenario that you have to go through. And takes it from level 3 to level 12. So it's only 12 adventures. And each adventure takes 2 or 3 sessions to play through. So it's not too bad, I don't think, in terms of length.
Well, let's start showing some. Let's start teasing people now. If I bring up some pages, I've got some pages that we want to talk about, and these are not in any particular order. We're just going to jump around with some bits and pieces. If those of you who are joining live, thank you very much. If you have questions, do shout it out. If you want comments, tell us a joke. That's fine as well. Tell us about your horror games. what level horror? 10, 12. Where are we? Let's get it in there. So let's have a look at. Let's bring this up on screen. So you mentioned the goblins are one of your favorite things.
They are. I do really like our goblins. They look like little cracked out baby Yodas. It's one of my
Yeah,
favorite
yeah.
designs we have.
They really do. I've got to zoom in here so there you can see them in more detail. I mean, wow. This is what happens when Baby Yoda lives on his own. This is absolutely. It is Baby Yoda meets Mad Max, isn't it? This is
For me, it was Baby Yoda meets the Fly.
Oh, the Fly. That's a good observation. Yeah.
Yeah. This is absolutely incredible. But anyway, tell us about. Again, we have a source book available. So if I haven't said it enough, this is a backer kit. It's available right now. For those of you in Twitch chat, live Twitch chat, you can click on the link, go and check it out for yourself. Don't go away, just open up another tab. Otherwise, you won't see this. And if you're watching this on YouTube, in the description below, you'll find some links there. Go check it out. We are currently, is this the first week or second week into the campaign?
We're halfway through, so yeah, we're halfway through.
We've got another bit, but yeah,
We're 14 days left.
Take us on a journey on some of these pages.
So this is a page from our Creature Caster Compendium, The Strange Wastes, which is going to be our first compendium that we're going to publish. These are the Goblin Raiders, as you can see, and this is actually, you're seeing it. This is the final layout for each one of our bestiary entries. The only difference is these ones are, so the reason you're seeing creaturecaster.com on the bottom is because these are ones that we publish monthly on our tribe. On My Mini Factory. So the actual book will have a page number for easy reference. So just so you guys are aware, I'm not going to advertise our website every page. That feels a little strange. But so so each one of the encounters in the Strange Waste is going to have an entry in here, and it's a companion book to the campaign book and the adventure book. The adventure book is going to have all 12 adventures compressed into one. Originally, I was going to do them more like each one of them as a single PDF, but we recently, this is actually breaking news, have an opportunity to actually do physical prints of these products later on in the year. And if we're going to be doing physical prints, I'd prefer not to do 12 different magazine styles adventures. I'd prefer just do one book. So I'm going to release all of this as just one book with all of the adventures inside of it.
That's cool. So, yeah, we've done. Steve knows this, but several interviews that we've done where we've seen the books, we highly recommend the same thing, and I think generally it pays off for people as well because they don't particularly want all the extra things. They want the one book now. Everything is self-contained.
Yeah, I will say too that all the backers on our backer kit that have purchased the PDF version of these books will receive a $60 discount on if they want to purchase the physical books later on.
Wow.
So, and I absolutely honor that because these guys are the ones that are making it possible. So even if they're purchasing the PDFs now, I think we're talking maybe January having the physical books available, I'll have it set up where they put in their backer number and they'll get a $60 discount.
That's cool. Speaking of discounts, you've actually done something for those of you people who are watching this.
Yeah.
It's open for a limited amount of time. But there you go. There is email Taylor directly at Creaturecaster, and you'll get a free trial to Obsidian Echoes.
Yeah, appreciate you guys tuning in. So I'm more than happy to give you guys a free sample of what we do. Obsidian Echoes is is the most recent adventure. It kind of along the theme. It takes place in the Strange Wastes, so it's very fitting for this. And it's along the lines of. You ever seen the movie Bone Tomahawk? No? Oh, you are missing out. It is a great film.
I will.
You need to watch
my homework.
Bone Tomahawk is mandatory watching.
Did that won an Oscar, didn't it?
Oh yeah, and it is grim. It is a grim movie. So, and I think I got the idea. I was watching Bone Tomahawk, and I'm like, what happens if it was orcs? What happens if it was ogres and goblins and maybe a demon cult leader? Let's go with that. And things kind of went from there. It veered quite a far away from my original idea, and it kind of became its own thing. But you could tell from the start with like the sort of Western drawl that everybody talks with, the Strange Ways, where the influence came from.
That's cool. We've got so as well as the goblins, the source book, bits and pieces. You also have almost like pages from the Necronomicon kind of
Yes.
thing.
Yeah.
As it says there, they will tear your fucking soul apart.
Oh yeah.
So again, this book is not aimed at kids.
No. This is not
Not suitable for
yeah.
children.
No, I've had people say, "Oh, I run games with my kids," and I'm like, "Oh, this adventure's not for you. This, this is not.
Yeah.
This is no, no.
Yeah. Just
Uh,
give me it back and
yeah,
go. Just walk away. This is
yeah.
not for you. Just keep
Um,
walking. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, as I was talking about influences for the game world as we grew on, I've always been really heavily influenced by Evil Dead. It's always been a big.
Yes.
As I was a teenager, I saw it. I went and saw. I
Yeah.
saw what was it? Army of Darkness in theaters when I
Yeah.
Yeah.
think I was
Yeah.
like 13, 14 years old. Not to date myself, but uh, yeah. And it's always been a big influence in my life, just in general, like just the aesthetic,
Yeah.
especially the aesthetic of the Necronomicon. And
Yes.
so when I was laying out this book, well, I had the idea of the Strange Wastes. Um, I really wanted the idea that nobody in the Strange Waste actually knows what the hell's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of people, it's up to interpretation. But the more you look into the demons and why this world's infested by demons, the crazier you get. So we had this whole like Mad Mage idea where the artwork in the book, instead of being like your traditional full piece fantasy pieces, right? I took a bit of a page from Mork Borg, right, which
Yeah.
I absolutely love, and just kind of said, you know what, all the interior art is going to be pages from these crazy books, and then I'll take our actual concept art and put it in there and kind of make it look like it's from some sort of grimoire
That's nice. That's a
that's been
lovely
scribbled
idea.
over and stuff. I thought it was kind of
Yeah.
neat. It's
Yeah.
different and original. I like it. Whether people like it or not, I don't know yet. No one's
Yeah.
really giving me too much feedback, but we'll see when it comes out, I guess.
Because as well as the source book, we've got I'll bring up another page as well. It's not just all those pieces. You also have character creation in there as
Yes.
well.
Yeah.
So tell us about the types of races and classes.
So it is a 5e setting, right? So I had to, but I realized that our game world is very different from your traditional player's handbook, right? So I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to provide, I didn't want people just give people adventures and say, okay. So I designed a campaign book that has everything you need to know about the Strange Wastes as a GM and as a player.
Yeah.
And as that's sort of evolving, I said, well, I should probably put like a guide in here on character creation and different races and that sort of thing. And that, if you've been playing role playing games long enough, you know that that's simple enough to do. So obviously the main races are humans. Humans are the main race, like they're the majority of
Yep.
the Strange Waste. I actually, there's very few NPCs that aren't human throughout the campaign. But then you have your more common race, like you have your normal races, like you have your dwarves, which are
Yep.
they're part of the world. You have your elves, which are it's interesting because there's the elves aren't common in the Strange Wastes, and they're more like vampires in the sense that they're very rich, very reclusive, and tend to not associate with other people. They're not drinking blood, but they're kind of viewed like they don't die, they live forever by human standards, right? They live alone. They try to they have servants and stuff that do things for them, and they're obscenely rich, right? So
Yeah.
um, so we have that in there. The what's the other races we have? I'm just going off the top of my head. We have goblins, which you saw. So actually, fun fact: the goblins that you saw in the Goblin Raiders, goblins themselves are actually. Oh, Gwen, it gets definitely different. I just don't want to reveal any secrets. They're anything but typical. But anyway, sorry. The goblins are like the photo you saw, but those are the raiders, right?
Yep.
The actual goblins live in peaceful tribes in the Strange Waste. They're traders. They mainly go around salvaging and trading goods, and they're genuinely pretty pleasant to deal with. But what happens is, so female goblins, they have it's a matriarchal society, and female goblins are very rarely born, and the entire tribe is based around protecting the female goblins so they can keep their clan alive.
Right.
But some goblins get outcast and they go crazy, and then when they go crazy, they kind of break off and form their own clans, better clans, bigger clans,
Bigger, better. Yeah.
and become raiders, right? So so the goblins though that are player races, they're the friendlier type, the traders and that sort of thing. Then you have orcs. Our orcs are a little different. They're mainly peaceful. They're amazing smiths, and they have an ability to bind themselves to genetic memories found, and they store these
Mhm.
genetic memories in their weapons. So they have ancestral memories, and they channel those to be So if you have a weapon that was wielded by a famous orc hero, you can take on aspects of that hero in combat and that sort of thing, right? So the spirit of that hero kind of lives on in the person wielding the new weapon. We have the Baharesh, which are ogres. They're they're more clannish, peaceful type naturalists that live out in the wastes. Then we have the Ultibacat, which are half demon, half humans, specifically demons of ecstasy or panisis, as they're called. They're like tieflings. There's a whole two adventures called the Throes of Ecstasy, Part 1 and 2, and it takes place in Carcosa, which is the city where these creatures live. And I think, and then the last race that we have is called a Stranger. And the Strangers are creatures from other worlds. So the whole premise of the Strange Wastes is that it's where realities go to die. So every world that's out there eventually dies, gets consumed, and pieces of that world end up in the Strange Wastes. And the whole economy of the Strange Wastes is people go out into these ruins and find pieces of ancient technology and other artifacts from other worlds and trade them and sell them. Right. So, and that gets into the Procurement Guild, which is the main economic force within the Strange Wastes, where they hire people to go out and do these things. So anyway, strangers are people from other dimensions and dead realities that somehow made it through to this new strange world. And now you're playing a character. Your character race can be any of the other races in D&D. It doesn't really matter. But you came from another world, and there's a whole set of rules of what happens when you're, waking up in a different world. And I'm not sure if you did read the part about how they come through at all.
No.
Okay, so the way they come through though is so when they come through, they're found in fleshy sacks called calls, and so they basically in a state of suspended animation inside of these fleshy sacks. Most of the time, these fleshy sacks get eaten by creatures in the waste, or maybe even cut open by reavers, which are a main threat in the wastes and forced into slavery. But every once in a while, someone from the Procurement Guild cuts you out and introduces you to this strange new world, and you are confused as hell, buck naked, no weapons, no armor, and have to hopefully somebody helps you gets back to civilization.
Wow, that is that something that's going to potentially happen to in the main campaign to all the players? So they don't meet in a pub; they're going to meet in a fleshy sack.
I leave it up to the GM, whatever they want to do. I mean, this is up to them. I might
add that in.
I've had a few starter adventures where one of the character wants to be a stranger, and the first adventure is, in the first adventure, they get cut out of a sack by a man who's very scared, and he's stuck in a cave, and there's a monster outside, and it's his only chance of survival is like basically giving this guy a weapon that he's cut out, being like, "You need to help me get out of here, or we're gonna die."
Wow,
it's kind of a neat idea, I think. So,
wow.
Yeah, and I just can't imagine anything more terrifying than waking up buck naked in a strange world without weapons and any idea of what's going on. And some dude's like, "You gotta help me. There's something outside that's gonna kill us."
Yeah, that's a kind of a Netflix 1 hour movie. That is. Just that premise.
just that premise.
You should send that over to him. See what happens. Give that a go. We've got another one here. So this is now we're going into kind of classes, and I love the artwork on this one as well. Of course, anyone who knows who watches Badgers regularly, there's going to be a ranger. I had to pick the ranger. This guy is awesome.
I'm glad you like him. He's These are actually so our concept artist is Alex Boca. He works with Larian Studios. So Baldur's Gate 3. Yeah, he's a fantastic artist. This is actually one of the members of the Procurement Guild. He's an actual miniature. We do have that model is part of he is an actual model. We have all of the D&D classes are in there. And it's also compatible with D&D 5.5e, I think people are calling it now. So the new 2024 version, which
the 2024 D&D 2024.
Yeah, it seems like everything. I looked through everything. It seems like everything's very compatible. I've adjusted the bestiary entries to be more compatible with D&D 5.5. So you'll have terms in there like bloodied and a few other terms. I've increased hit point amounts and damage output and that sort of thing just to represent how the new meta in the game works. But we have all the classes available, and what I've done is I've taken each one of the classes and given them sort of a place in the Strange Wastes. And how those characters or how those classes interact, and because it's a bit of a different setting because there's no gods, right? No one has, no one has any. There's no religion. Well, there is, but not really. Like, no, there in other fantasy worlds, there's like defined gods and pantheon of religion, and you follow X god and get X benefits. In the Strange Wastes, there's no pantheon of gods. There's no gods that paladins or clerics can worship, right? So having it sort of explained to them within the context and the setting, I thought was very important.
You mentioned the I'm gonna come back to this because we mentioned this before. This is the Silent Village.
Yeah.
Did Alex do this artwork as well, or is it just
no? So I have to be very creative sometimes with artwork. What I've actually done is I have Affinity Suite, which is it's like a Photoshop suite, same idea, right?
Yeah.
I actually went through Envato, found some fantastic photographs, and then I went through and put them through different filters and editors, and did a bunch of attached a bunch of different graphic designy artist things, and created some of the artwork that way.
Oh, I've just lost it. There it goes.
Yeah. So that's actually an actual place in, I don't remember where it was, but it's someone built a shelter inside of a cave, and I thought it was a good way to sort of show the Silent Village without having access to an artist and drawing stuff. So, and this is not the final layout. Like, I'm seeing like on the top there, you see where it says "damned giant space place," right? That's all been changed. It's been edited. So yeah.
Nice. I was sort of just reading some bits and pieces as well. I love the whole aspect of this, the whole Silent Village, the whole the D&D put in races, classes, because it can be so familiar for people to go in.
Yeah.
And for those, if perfect for Halloween season, or just to really freak out your players, you just suddenly make it very, very dark. Especially if they turn up for these things. If they want to rank up the horror aspect or the atmosphere, the ambience, boom, put them into somewhere dark. Do it as a one shot because they will love you and hate you forever for doing it. Put it in this place.
That was kind of the idea, was to do these adventures as one shots, like every month publish a new one shot. And then I kind of realized there was a story here I wanted to tell. And that's where it sort of evolved into a campaign. You can see the first 3 adventures being one shots, and then after that starts becoming connected. So
is the intent that you play through all 12 in sequence?
Yeah.
Or can you jump around?
No, you should definitely play them in sequence. It kind of goes in. So yeah, I mean the first 3, it doesn't really matter. Well, the first 2, it doesn't matter which one you play first. The third one, the Silent Village, it's once you get through the Silent Village and you end up in the city called Titan's Rest, is when the campaign really starts, because it takes place in the main city, which is Titan's Rest, which is the whole premise behind the Strange Wastes is that it was a refuge. There's the demons, they're thomnivores, they feed on magic, and there's very little raw magic in this area, so it's free of demons. And that's where mortals that came to this world started to thrive, because they weren't being eaten by demons all the time. There was another race that was at war with the demons called the Titans, and the Titans, they also saw the Strange Wastes as a refuge, and took the mortals under their wing and taught them how to survive in this world. And the demons, they realized that they could feast on the mortals and survive in the Strange Wastes because they can consume mana through the flesh and blood of mortals. And the Titans didn't take kindly to that. There was a giant war. And then what happened was the eldest Titan sacrificed his brothers and sisters and used his blood and bone to repel the demons, building the city of Titan's Rest. And afterwards, he fell into a depression and he collapsed into a coma. And the humans started worshiping the Titan, and they built a giant city over top of him and keep him basically warm and safe and fuzzy. And listen to basically, so the city itself is run by 2 factions. You have the advocacy, which are lawyers, and then you have the priests of the wheel, who are the caretakers of the Titan. And so what the priests of the wheel do is they listen to the Titan talk in his sleep, and they interpret his words and give it to the advocacy. And the advocacy, being lawyers, they fight over the meaning of his words and build the city, the laws of the city around what the Titan's saying in his sleep. Which is really crazy when you think about it.
It is. It is.
But the people are also pretty crazy to live here. So
And then you say the procurement guild basically run the economy, and is that
yeah,
of Titan's Rest as well?
they're looking. Everything's pretty much the main city is Titan's Rest, and then there's
Right.
sort of little outpost cities on the outside, the outskirts of it. But yeah, everything, all the major organizations are within Titan's Rest, and the procurement guild's kind of interesting because I mean it's not overtly Satan said said that they're also a front for all criminal activity in the Waste, right? So they're in charge of the Thieves Guild, they're in charge of the Assassins Guild, they're in charge of they do all sorts of bad things to people, right, and exploit people and that sort of thing, which is kind of revealed in the campaign, but it's not the main focus of the campaign.
With such strong factions then in the campaign setting, were you tempted to write a bunch of subclasses for the main 5e character classes?
Oh, Steve, I could have spent months, if not years, writing all this stuff, but I had to call it quits at some point and just kind of leave it the basic. Like if I really had my choice, I would probably do a whole 5e, 5.5e variant system, right?
Yeah.
I know you guys are around the same age as I am, so in the 90s we had a lot more choice when it came to role-playing games in general. Right. And I grew up on the role-playing game Dragon Quest, which was SPI's answer to Rollmaster. Right.
Yeah.
And it, I mean, I'm a big fan of tactical combat. Different weapons do different things. I prefer hex maps over grids, right? Just because I'm old. And that's, I mean, that's just how it is. I mean, so if I had my choice, if I had the time and my choice, I'd produce like a World of Reclamation role-playing game that would have all of those elements using probably the bare bones of the 5e system.
Yeah.
But no, so I didn't include any subclasses, but that could be something to look at in the future if this is successful and people are really interested in doing it. I mean, I have no problem doing subclasses for sure. A lot of the backgrounds in the book are essentially subclasses, right? Like the background, you have member of the Procurement Guild, you have barrister of the Titan. The lawyers have a warrior class called the barristers, and basically when they can't decide and the judges can't decide what to do, they pit them in arena combat, and the champion, the person who wins the combat, also has the correct interpretation of the Titan's law. Again, these people are nuts.
Speaking of, I mean, we've been talking a lot about the background, and we've mentioned the story, the 12 chapters. I'm going to throw up another page here.
Sure.
And by the way, again, for those of you watching live, if you have questions, put it in chat, and we'll shout it out. We'll get you those answers. If you're watching this on YouTube, on playback, on repeat, or whatever it is, whatever you call it these days, whatever the kids are calling it these days, put your question into the comments below, and I'll pass that over to Taylor. 6 months from now, if you have questions and you're watching this, just fine.
Might as well throw it to my email.
Exactly. Just I'll reach out to Taylor and pass him some questions. Right. Let's take a look at this one. So this is we're just kind of taking a page from, this is chapter 1 or adventure 1. Now something I love here is you're actually saying here's the recommended models. These are the encounters you're going to have in this section.
Yeah.
And you start at the top and you kind of work your way down. Oh, they're cool, and then you hit Sweet Tooth, and Sweet Tooth is this big bad abomination.
He is.
How big is he in terms of a miniature? Is he large or is he?
Yeah, he's a large model. He comes in 2 versions: the 40mm version and the 50mm version. Gotcha. And just to give you a thought, I do actually have Sweet Tooth here.
Oh yeah,
I'm not sure what's going to show up. But I have Sweet Tooth. He's half painted. Wow! I put him on a square base because again I use hexes, and I'm using him as a chaos spawn in Old World. But he is a beast. He is, and he comes with an extra arm too, where he's actually holding a half a torso. So he has an alternate arm as well. But Sweet Tooth is one of my favorites, and I should mention this too. And I know I actually didn't share this with you, either one of you. We actually have fiction from authors being written in World of Reclamation. The first book is called Bargaining and Blasphemy. It's written by my dear friend Jason Paul, and it's actually available for free on My Mini Factory. So if you go into my manufacturer, you can just download. It's a 50-page short story, I think, and
wow.
it's the actual events of that whole adventure, written out with characters and as a novella.
Oh, cool. Yeah, we definitely have to get that. Make a note of that, Steve. We'll
It just occurred to
we'll
me
add
now
that.
when
No, we can add that into the
Yep.
campaign in January. So that's
Yep.
cool. We can put that together. So again, let's bring this back up on the screen. Zoom. Again, the breakdown of this. We've had chats about this where we've kind of talked about your writing style. So you're
Yes.
writing all these adventures, all these stories, culminating into the campaign now. But the narrator point of view, the descriptions, you're very hot on your particular style and what you want to get across. Can you expand on that a little bit more?
Yeah, so I'm an author, right? I'm a writer, and I know this is, and I've heard it from both people. One thing I've heard from newer role players, especially newer GMs, right, is that they know how to run a D&D game. I don't have to write how to make when people should make perception tests, or
Mm-hmm.
when people can make survival tests, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, there's some prompts that people need, but for the most part, everyone knows how to do that if they're running a game. What they struggle with the most is having really good exposition to get their characters into the action, right? And when I started writing these adventures, I really looked at the game Baldur's Gate 3, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the way that it's narrated, right? Because it does an amazing job narrating what's happening, right? From that narrator, that wonderful narrator's voice. Another game that does it really well too is Darkest Dungeon, right?
Yep.
Where it has that amazing narrator, right? Who's just narrating what's going on to you. And
Yep.
I felt, I was looking at other adventures and they don't really have that. And I thought maybe to differentiate, what I'll do is I would get really verbose and really, really use a very, I guess, write it as if it's a book, right?
Mm-hmm.
And give you the tools you need to really get your players involved in and really get across what the setting is like. And for advanced, I've had, and of course, I've had the opposite end of the spectrum where I've had more advanced GMs like, well, you're just writing too much, like I don't feel like I should be reading, 300 words to my players. And I'm like, that's fine. I'm like, just edit it, shrink it down. I mean, you're the GM. I'm not gonna,
Yeah.
I don't care what you do.
It's one of those really good things. I mean, and I'm gonna for once this year I'm gonna prop Steve. So Steve is very good at doing those kind of cutscenes. So RPGs are always about in-person action.
Yes.
Steve does these things, and like computer games do it. We mentioned computer games, but they have cutscenes. They tell you and show you what's going on with the villain, the bad guy.
Yeah.
What they're up to. When you finally defeat them, they're like, "Oh, you killed one of my generals, but I'll get you next time, you pesky kids."
Yeah.
All of that stuff. Steve's very good at showing that, even if it's just dialogue. We might have some pictures or atmosphere music, but at the end of the adventure, at the end of that session, he goes, "Right, now this is what happens in the other side, the other team. This is what's going on over there." So props to Steve for doing that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I love the idea of when we get to play this one. As you said, it's a story. When I'm running as a GM, I try to say this is a scenario. So for this session, we got 2 hours to have some fun. These are the boundaries. This is it. This is the setting. This is the scenario. And then I go, and that's it. Then the rest of the choices are up to them. They know where they are. It's not a complete open world every single session. They know what the constraints are. They know what they have to do. And from a player point of view, by that time, you kind of know the rules. You know what you can and can't do.
Exactly.
But have fun with it. Be cinematic. Be heroic.
Yeah.
Go well over the top. Say stuff and then just roll high. Because if you roll low, you know it's going to be bad. You don't have to worry about nat 20s and nat 1s. You get under 10, you're in trouble. A 7 is just as well, not as bad as nat 1, but 7 is just as bad. Something you're going to lose fingers. Nat 1, you might lose the whole arm, but something's going to go wrong. And where I've had the chance to read some of these things, I think you've done a fantastic job. I absolutely love them. And I'm trying to find ways where, for me as a GM, how I'm gonna get my players into position, the right frame of mind, and you've done it for me, which is great.
Well, thanks. I appreciate that.
I'm very happy for that.
Well, it's
That's
always
very cool.
it's always a little harrowing too when people read it, because I mean, I write for me, right? But I'm writing for you,
Sure.
and so I'm the only person that can. So when I read something, I'm like, this is what I would want, but I have no idea what you want or Steve wants or Max wants or whoever, right, is running these games. I just have to kind of go with my gut feeling and my general consensus, and so
Yeah.
far it's been pretty good. People haven't complained, and I always one of my things, I'd rather give you more tools to work with
Mhm.
than I would give you too few tools to work with, right? Because if I give you too much, you can cut it out yourself, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
If you have too little, that is asking me or me asking you to do something extra. And I mean, you've
Yeah.
already done enough by buying the adventure and setting up the game, right?
Yeah. That's
And
cool.
printing off these amazing models.
That as well. That as well. Steve, were you going to add something just then? I was just going to pop
No,
a next one.
it was just like I was gonna. You were talking about why I do the foreshadowings, why I do foreshadowing at the end of the sessions is purely because my main gripe with a lot of adventures is there's so much information in there
Mhm.
that I get to read, and the players never see light of day
Right?
ever.
Right.
Hmm.
I'm writing this adventure for GMs, really, right?
Yeah.
Like I want the GMs to really enjoy what they're reading, right? So, another great thing I'd love to do, but I haven't done it with an adventure is a cold open. I'm not sure if you've ever done a cold open when you run
No.
when you run a
No.
D&D game. Oh, I used to do this all the time, especially with my modern horror campaigns that I'd run. Is I would start with a cold open and I would assign characters, like one-shot characters, to a bunch of players, and we'd actually
Mhm.
play out the cold open before the players even got involved.
Wow.
Right, kind of like how X-Files did it.
Yeah,
If
yeah,
you
yeah.
remember, they had that cold open where it didn't involve anyone in the X-Files, like didn't involve Mulder and Scully. It just,
Mulder and Scully.
yeah, and that just kill off these random characters, and then people knew what kind of they were getting into with the adventure.
Yeah, as because we've played Alien before,
Yeah.
and so I've DM'd. We had some really really good games. Dave DM'd a different group of people, and it was like not a very good time because you've got to be in the right frame of mind to play
Yeah.
that
Yes.
type of game. You have to accept there's a lot of tension. There may not be a lot going on, but you've got to get into that. Oh, I'm not going to survive, but let's go out in a really really cool way.
Yes.
Whereas sort of when you DM, there was very much the approach of right, we're all going to stick together. We're not going to get
We're gonna stay
separated.
together. The captain's gonna have his gun. That's it. Everyone's like single file. We're almost like everyone's just poddle, and we're going around room by room. It's like no, that's not how we. That's not how you play Alien. That's how you've been playing D&D.
That's how you
But
win
now,
Alien.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And now you're playing a sci-fi horror survival game, and it's part of the game is letting yourself go. Part of yourself is letting you don't have to worry about survive making sure your character survives.
Yeah.
You don't have to protect them.
Yeah.
They will get hurt. So yeah,
They-
that's good.
Because like when you're setting up for running these games, do you find you have to break the player's attitude towards them being superheroes?
Yeah.
You know, you have to. We was talking about it in the car. We went on a road trip recently, and so one of the things that we remember from playing as younger people, your supplies were limited. You know, so you had spell components, and you keep track of arrows and stuff like that. Whereas that tends to fall away in 5e to a certain extent. You get spell
Yeah, a
focus
lot.
now. You know, right? Well, I've got 500 arrows. I don't really keep track of them and stuff like that. So, you know, this sort of game I think fits a return to that style of play where you limit what spells the players can cast to a certain extent by having spell components, and you certainly keep track of things like, well, you've got 20 arrows. You know, if you've shot 5, you've got 15 left, and we're only in room number 1.
Yeah. I was terrified when I heard that 5.5e was coming out, and it was one aspect that really scared me, and that was that they were going to get rid of the exhaustion rule, right?
Really?
Because
Well,
I make ample use of exhaustion in this campaign, right? You are exhausted, and it happens all the time. I think it's the last 3 adventures are back to back to back, and you don't get a long rest until the last adventure. You get one long rest, and it's a spell, right? And that's because I knew at that point, like, if characters haven't had a long rest within 3 adventures, they're going to die. I can't. They're not going to survive any longer. So I had to give them a chance to have a long rest. But yeah, so I mean, but the exhaustion rules, are I think perfect for this setting. And I really kind of expanded. That's right, Don. I mean, Don Zach. Donjon Master is one of my friends. He's actually running the campaign right now with a group of people. Actually, I believe Meredith is actually part of that campaign,
Oh
along
wow,
with
cool.
Meredith and Greg, Kit from Game Envy, um, Neil Duffy from Impending Duff, um, Lynn from Metalhead Minis. They're all running through the campaign right now. So
Cool.
Cool.
We'll be hot on their heels in January then when we launch ours.
yeah,
So
they'll be
yes,
yeah.
cool, great stuff. We're coming down to the last 10 minutes. So again, if anyone has any questions or you want to pick Taylor's brains, do put your questions into chat now, or forever miss out until the next time he comes on in the next month. In which case, we'll answer your questions again. But let's take a look at this. So this is one of the adventures that you sent me. This is just the back cover.
Yeah.
Is this, in terms of the style or the presentation, is this the final, or will
Yeah,
you still
that's
do
final.
some bits
Yeah,
and pieces?
that's the final. Yeah, it's the that's kind of the feel I like to go with a lot of the stuff. Is again
Yeah.
grim, a lot of sketchy art, a lot of bold colors. Yeah, that's actually not that particular photo, but that's the style of all the different back covers.
That's awesome. So now we're into a bit. We've been talking about the minis, so I'm gonna kind of rush on into some of the STL files, which you can grab at My Mini Factory.
Yep.
Also the backer kit, where you can get all of these.
You get
and
all of
more,
them. All of them.
All of them. We're gonna go right back to where we started with the goblins.
Okay.
Look, look at those eyes, man.
Look at that guy, man. Yeah, I have
That
one here too.
is
This
incredible.
is I actually have one. This is the
Oh yeah,
this
let's
is the
look at it.
Goblin Berserker.
There we go.
Let's see if I can. I'm gonna turn this
Oh,
light on real
wow.
quick and let's see if you can see that. He's I painted this as a challenge.
Yeah.
Yeah, the as a painting challenge. So we had 2 hours to paint a model, and I whipped this guy together. But,
Yeah.
That is really impressive.
I love this model. He's the Goblin Berserker. The smile on my face when I was showing that model, I was like, that guy's perfect, just what I wanted. But anyway, so we're talking. Yeah, so we were looking at the goblins.
It's the eyes. It's the eyes.
It's the eyes. It's the eyes.
Cool.
But
Right,
the Paizo goblins, it's the teeth.
Yeah.
For these, it's the eyes.
But these guys are just wild. Like they just look so angry. Like that's the chieftain. So that's the Goblin Berserker before he drinks that potion that he has in his hands, and then he
Right.
becomes a berserker. So Goblin Berserkers, they're goblins that have been weaned onto a poison from a young age, and when they consume this alchemical concoction, they become large creatures. The muscles burst out. They go crazy, and they
Wow.
yeah. So, but yeah, see, that's how he's got that big giant sword on his back.
Yep.
Right? It's because he can wield it when he's in berserker.
when he knocks it back. We got another one. Let's what can you, this is the Titan. Wow.
This is a bit of a spoiler, but yeah, he's that is the corrupted Titan.
Yeah. That is just,
and he's huge.
It's just the expression on his face. It's just,
well, he's possessed by the slumbering king. He's but if you and I know you can't see the back of him, but he actually has a hand reaching out of his back.
Oh no.
It's a gigantic hand that's I don't have the model. I'd love to show you guys. But yeah, he has a giant hand that's curled out of his back. And it's a greater demon that has possessed him.
That is incredible.
Yeah.
And disgusting at the same time. But you always find, like, in giants, the giants are fairly formidable, really. When you try to start fighting, you realize that they can do a hell of a lot of damage. But to see that someone, like, you kind of feel sorry for him, but it just looks, I want to stay away.
And actually, in the adventure, you don't actually fight him because it's impossible. Yeah. You can't win a fight. You get 4 ballistas, and the whole thing is you got to pin him down with the ballistas and then perform a ritual on him, right? Because there's no possible way to fight something that big. Like the model itself, I'm serious. I think it's 20 centimeters tall. Wow. So for you Americans, that's Jesus. What is that? That's like 10 inches tall, I think. Yeah. Something like that. He's huge. He's on a 100mm base, and you can see the size of the base on there versus the size of him.
It's terrifying. It is terrifying. What about this one?
That's an Ultima cat. So that's one of the half demons.
Yeah.
So he's half human, half demon of ecstasy.
I even like the pose on this. I mean, like the muscles on the arm, the whole heroic kind of pose is just incredible. The detail on this armor as well.
Yeah, that's something that Peter is our art director, and he is very, very, very strict about musculature and anatomy, right? Like I've seen him, like if you send him a model that and the arm wouldn't bend properly, it goes straight back. Like he is definitely, he's 100% wants to make sure that each one of our creatures has a proper anatomy. Like even this guy here, and I'll show you. This is the hedonist of ecstasy, because he has a strange biology to him. See if I can get that in the camera. Let's see if that'll focus. There we go. So, but you can see he has all of the musculature is there, right? He's not, like even the way the arms bend, like these mantis arms on the side, like they're all very. You can see where the muscles are and where the bones are, and how it kind of goes. So, yeah. So
his giant codpiece there,
and his giant codpiece. That is actually he's also encountered in the adventures.
Cool.
Yep.
You got Crazy Bald Head 8 there. I've been collecting these models over the last year on the MMF Tribe. I get excited every month to see what's coming next. They are jaw-droppingly awesome.
I appreciate it, man.
Are. That is cool. Right, let's bring up another one. Push the buttons. Yep. This is awesome. I love all the extra skulls. Just like, how many skulls can I hang from my body? Before it becomes too many. Is 5 too much?
I'm just, you know what? I've given up. I remember when I first started, I was just like, maybe we could scale back on the skulls. And Peter took it as a personal challenge to scale up on the skulls. So I was like, all right. So this guy here, he's the rider of bloodshed. Well, he's actually called the Apostle of Bloodshed. So the whole idea is the faction of Discord, which is they're demons of this. Their demon god is called Nymerith, and Nymerith, instead of having, because Discord is a very chaotic faction that doesn't really have any sort of order to it, where every other faction has like different ranks of demons, right? So we have your atriarchs, which are your like demon knights, right? Mm-hmm. And then you have your lords and your ladies. They don't have any of that. So they have what are called riders, the riders of Discord, and the rider. So the rider of bloodshed represents murder and bloodshed, and there's also the rider of despair, the rider of betrayal, and each one of these are led by a different demon. Like powerful demon. We don't really have a name for them outside of Rider, but Paimon the Last King, which is one of my favorite characters in the series, is he's the lord of he is the rider of despair, and he rides this thing called the Discordian Peregrinus, and he's very much looks like a fell rider, like from Lord of the Rings.
Yeah,
but there's a whole story behind him in the adventure and stuff too. It's pretty cool.
That's cool. And then the renders that we've been showing. Again, all of these are in the backer kit.
Yeah.
And you don't just get those individuals. I'm going to show another render here. You've also get these. These are the entire collection as well.
Yeah.
Great different poses on all of these. If you take a moment to kind of look at each one, do you know how easy that is to do? I mean, is it just like the design and then you model it into different poses, and bits and pieces?
No, I see. That's what I thought. It's not. It's actually it takes longer than you would think it takes. Typically you have static elements, right? Like you have like the pauldrons, the weapons, and then you can put them into different poses. But because again, Peter is very, very adamant about how anatomy works, he wants to make sure that each one of them is in the perfect, like anatomically correct pose. Right. So a lot of it, I have like sketches, for example, like just quick sketches of the different poses and like stick figures, right. Yeah. Of what he wants, and then how and then the sculptors they get it done. These are the barristers of the Titan. So these are the lawyers that I was telling you about that fight in the arena.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is awesome. And we also
I,
got.
I love the fact they're all wielding gavels as well.
That's right.
Yeah.
Oversized double-handed gavels. That's awesome.
And then we've got this is so. I guess there might be a slight spoiler. I'll give a slight spoiler here. This is Sweet Tooth.
Yes.
Who we've been talking about it. Me and Steve have been talking about it. Me and Richard have been talking about it. This is and you showed the model of it earlier that you painted. This is equally like fascinating and disgusting at the same time. Their heads come out of flesh. You got these worms.
It's
that worm coming out of
the arms.
Yeah.
He eats out of his armpit, and in the adventure, he actually talks in two voices at the same time.
Oh,
so it's like
man.
so his little head is talking, and his big mouth is talking as well at the same time. And he's actually a demon of ruin, so he doesn't actually he's not part of the Discord faction. The demon of ruin are constantly in pain, and all they want to do is eat. So that's their main thing is constantly eating, right? So and I had this discussion with Peter when we were discussing some of the monsters of ruin, and I'm like, every creature of ruin should have grasping claws and mouths, right? Like that is sort of the trademark of that demon, that subclass of demons, is they all want everything they do is revolves around eating, right? And giving birth, which gets weird. They also give birth a lot, which is also in the adventures. And it's pretty gross.
That's worse than eating.
It gets pretty dark. They because they don't. There's no. They reproduce by eating, so they eat and then they reproduce, right? And it's horrific.
We got there's a comment in the audience from Maverick. Yeah, what?
Dude, he got no idea.
Giving birth? What?
Yeah, he's Maverick's like, oh no. Yeah. Trust me, this whole thing gets really weird and dark. Trust me, it's a hole that you go down with these adventures sometimes. My wife has read them and she's like, what's wrong with you? I have no idea why you're like this. Yeah.
And we got right, we're going to put up the final piece of art now as well. So again, explain this one, because now we've got some concept artwork with the STO as well.
So this is Forcus, the key bear. He's actually myself and my 6-year-old daughter's favorite monster in the entire series. He's a greater demon that appears in, I think, the 10th adventure around the end. And what I wanted to show here actually was how close our concept art is to our final product, right? So you're seeing Forcus here on the right hand side my right hand side with how we envision them, and then the final thing. My favorite part about this guy is the faces on his knees.
Yeah.
Right.
I
love
that. Yeah.
Yeah. Like when my kid saw this, she goes, who is that? He has faces on his knees and a snake full of beards, or a beard full of snakes.
That is absolutely incredible.
He's so we but yeah, he's one of my favorite guys, and again, he actually can't talk because his mouth is full of snakes. So he actually speaks with his knees.
Oh man.
Which sounds silly, but it also sounds terrifying when you really think about it.
Yeah. That is absolutely incredible. So we're gonna start wrapping this up, folks. If you have any questions, shout out, or forever be silent until next month when Teddy comes back. So the elevator pitch again. World of Reclamation, the backer kit. What can people do?
They can sign up on the backer kit. There's 3 different levels of signing up. You can get the $60 PDFs. That'll just give you access to the adventures plus any of the stretch goals. You can sign up to the $200 package, which is all of the STLs but no adventures. So if you're just a collector, painter, whatever, don't really role play, that's a really good option to go. And again, I want to stress how many models you get with this. It's over 120 miniatures. Wow. Right? It's a lot. If you were to go on My Manufacturing and buy all the bundles, it would cost you well over $500. So if you go with the 250 package, you have not only my eternal thanks for supporting us, but you also get the Creature Cast Compendium. You get all the books. Creature Cast Compendium, you get all 12 adventures, and you get the campaign guide. You also get 120 STLs and all of the applicable stretch goals. So we have some pretty exciting stretch goals that are hopefully going to meet. I mean, probably at this point we're like, probably not. But one thing that we do have that we're doing right now is an exclusive miniature to the backer kit, and it is going to be a Dragonborn Ranger of some sort.
Yes, I noticed you posted up on socials.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's
Intriguing.
and that's a community. That was a community initiative. So if we get more, if we actually make our goal and go past our goal, I'm not adverse to doing a few more of these throughout the campaign, where people can, get to vote on what they want to see and what they want us to sculpt as these community build models.
That's awesome.
So,
Awesome.
but yeah, that's the elevator pitch. I mean, you can't go wrong with $250 for a year's worth of D&D adventures and all the models you need to run it. That seems a pretty good value to me.
That is also one of the things when you play D&D and Pathfinder and regular stuff, you never have enough of the minis you need, or the mini doesn't exist. Here it is. You got the entire campaign.
Everything.
You need, any STL files. You can print and paint as much as you want to.
Yeah.
Which is awesome. Right, Taylor, we're gonna wrap it up there. Look, we did it. There
we
you
did
go.
We made it through. We survived
for a while now. We've been having the chats and trying to where can we put this in? Because schedules are crazy nuts at the moment. So Taylor, thank you so much for spending some time hanging out, having a chat. We will be back. So for those of you who are interested in more about World of Reclamation, so it's October as we do this. For those of you joining live, I hope you know it's October. But we'll be back next month at the end of November. We're going to be painting up some of these miniatures. And in January 2025, we will start our own adventure into the World of Reclamation. I'm running it. I'm already scared for the players.
Are you running? Are you the GM?
I'm gonna do GM.
You're not gonna get me there.
I don't know. Do you want to do it? I was going to give it a go, but you can do it if you want to. I don't mind. No, I want to run it. Because I want to scare people. I want to scare people. So we're gonna do this. And if you're interested you would like to come along and play with the badges, we haven't worked out how many players we might need at the moment. But if you do want to, you're interested,
we might need subs.
That's a good point. We might need extras. Just to as one dies, we just get a new one in. You're not going to get reborn or anything. You're done, and we'll just get a new player in. We'll swap them out.
I think the one current group I know that's not play testing. They're playing through the first campaign. I think they're on their 4th set of characters.
Yeah.
So yeah, it has been pretty. It's pretty brutal. The way I like to organize the fights is you actually need to be you need to be a little tactical in how you do it. You can't just run in because you will get smoked pretty fast. So, yeah. So,
right, everybody. Again, thank you so much for joining us live. For those of you watching on YouTube, put your questions in the comments below. I got it right that time. And Taylor, don't go anywhere, Taylor. We'll see you in a minute.
I'll be here.
For those of you watching us, thank you so much. We'll see you again soon. Ta-da.